before I get in with my usual intro, I just want to quickly say, don't build while listening to the Narnia soundtrack. Lauman and Alia already know what I'm talking about, and when we get to that point in the video, I will explain further. But anyway, hey everyone, I hope you all had an amazing day, and welcome back to Theonopolis. It really feels weird not saying that first. But anyway, today we are basically finishing up the hotel, which from now on is going to be called Hotel Eros, just because of the thing I mentioned in the beginning of the video, but also because there is a huge amount of roses, and it feels very romantic. Yes, even this squirrel can see that some things sometimes end up looking kinda romantic. But anyway, this hotel is really like, it started out as just like, it's a hotel, but now it really is somewhat of like the centerpiece of like the waterfront area to the main street. And yes, the main street has like two waterfronts, but this is like, I mean the waterfront at the castle. I'm already rambling. This is what happens if I don't do my intro first. But anyway, it's like, I don't know, like first I thought of building like a small hotel, and it just gotten bigger and bigger, and also, yes, I added the tower because everything looks prettier with a tower. And it's kind of functional because it gives access to the roof, which does tie in with that Narnia thing. Yeah, I'm really needing to go into that when we get to that. But anyway, so the hotel turned from just a small hotel that I planned out to basically being huge. And it is, in a way, like, I didn't see this when I was building, but it's actually like, if you upgrade the corner shop from the last video and the first video of rebuilding the main street, then you get this hotel. It has like somewhat of the exact same shapes to it. Like the angled offset or extension of the building, which in the hotel houses the restaurant, in the corner shop it houses the bakery, but like it's like the exact same angle almost. Then you also have this like not completely L shape, but just like that pointy shape with the higher parts of the building, and then you have the extension, which is kind of like it's there, which is the entrance. But if you took away that like the entrance area, it's like really just the corner shop 2.0. I didn't realize that. But later, when I was just again taking screenshots, because everything in Theonopolis is built for taking screenshots, I just saw like, I have almost done the complete same, just mirrored. Also, to kind of talk about what we're seeing right now in the video. Yeah, I don't like using those flower beds, or like, I don't know, like I usually just want to build them myself instead of using the in-game ones. Mostly because then you can like color the flowers, and with most of those flower things, you can't really color them. And again, like it's Hotel Eros, like it needs roses and all that stuff. But also I wanted to quickly add like some kind of like sun protection, because yeah, this place is just full into the sun. But this really ties back into also with what I said in the last video, which is like add like a different material to kind of bring a bit of life to a building. Because you can see on like the right side, or like the entrance area of the hotel, it's only stone and it feels very dead. Or at least that's my opinion on it. So with the addition of like wood, or just actually just a different texture, like not even just a different material, but just a different texture to what you've already used, it just brings a little bit of life into the building. That being said, like the castle is all stone. But then also, like, the castle is meant to be kind of like not dead looking, but very intimidating looking, because, well, the palace is very like friendly and very colorful. I wanted to say valley. This really happens when I don't do my intro first. Then I just mess up the entire recording. But it's going to be kept in because, well, I love it when I make mistakes. But anyway, so you will see me add like a lot of flowers. But I also quickly remember, I promised you guys that I would have this hotel uploaded like last weekend, but again, goes into the Narnia thing that I talked about, or mentioned. I spent way too long on kind of like a small area of the hotel and just, yeah. Again, Lauman and Alia already know what I'm talking about and what I built. It kind of ties in with like that romantic feeling, because this hotel really, like, we already have another hotel which is Palace Asudem. I think that's like the only building in Theonopolis where even I struggle with the name. But that hotel is very intimidating looking. It's very like, it's big, it's probably very expensive because it's like right next to the Odeon. And this is like right at the entrance. It's supposed to be like a very welcoming building because you don't want a very intimidating building right at the entrance. I say as I built like a literal death trap when it came to the castle. Yeah, I don't... Well, the castle is like nowhere near like, oh, this is a theme park. This hotel also isn't really because it's a bit too extreme, I would think. But anyway, as I said before, this building just needed a tower. And it further solidifies that the building is almost like a complete mirror of the corner shop. Not intended, again. But it just sort of turned out that way because I wanted the buildings on the corners, of course, to have like this kind of funnel effect of like go into the main street and just spend every penny on you have on the shops there. But it just ended up being almost like shape-wise, of course, because when it comes to like detailing, it's completely different next to the corner shop. The corner shop is very like white, very pale, I would say, and the hotel is very colorful. But shape-wise, it's really almost identical, just mirrored. But again, like, this is just like my go-to thing when I want to add a little bit of like dimension, as I would say, to a building. Add a tower. I really like, I don't know how it started, but I just started adding towers whenever I was just like, alright, this building needs a little bit more pizzazz, and then it was just like, alright, tower. Right now, Theonopolis has, well, not counting the castle and palace, because that would almost double the amount of towers, but I think every grand building right now, or like, not grand, but just, you know, well, every building in Theonopolis is grand. Again, goes into what I wanted to talk about when I wanted to talk about the Narnia stuff. But almost everything now has a tower. And I can't help myself, it just looks great. And I know I'm kind of more rambly today, but I'm really excited because I really like how it turned out. Also, like, an added benefit, or just like an unexpected benefit, because the corner shop and the station are really low and actually, well, when it comes to heights, you have like the corner shop and then like the complete right side of the station are like almost the same height, but when you go in between that, it kind of dips when it comes to building height. And you like, it perfectly framed the drop tower of the dive coaster. Again, that was not intended, but a lot of things were not intended while building this, well, sort of new entrance to the main street. But now I can finally talk about what I mean with don't listen to the Narnia soundtrack when you're building, or at least when you're me. Because I already said that this place is like very, for me at least, it looks very romantic. So I just thought like, alright, I need to find a function for the roof. I started listening to the Narnia soundtrack because I mean, it's a great soundtrack. Like, I shouldn't justify why I should be listening to this Narnia soundtrack. It's a great one. But it made me build very whimsical and, like, I wouldn't say adorable things, but just, I don't know, like fantasy things. So I actually built like a wedding arch and just like a complete wedding scene. And I have to immediately say I'm not good at building small things. Like everything in Theonopolis is huge for a reason. It's just easier to hide mistakes in huge buildings than when you build something very small and such. Also another reason why I never built statues myself. I have tried. And yeah, the castle was actually like the second, well, plan I had for the entrance. The first was like a huge statue. Like, not just huge, but actually like, well, completely insanely huge. That would like go, you would actually just go between the legs of like that statue, but I couldn't get that to work. Like, it looked just weird. So in a way I'm glad, because we ended up with a castle instead of like a huge statue, which would have maybe outshined the Acropolis. It's just weird that, like, I always listen to some kind of like game or movie soundtrack, because those usually have like almost zero words, but they are, you know, they are meant to like get you in like the spirit of what you're playing or seeing. So I usually listen to some kind of soundtrack while building in Plant Coaster. I did not expect that listening to, let's say, Narnia soundtrack would make me actually build things that would actually, you know, kind of work with the Narnia vibe. Because usually I build something that's like, you know, it's nice, but it's also not that friendly. Like, I make it friendly with the use of like flowers and just foliage, not with like a wedding scene. Although I did build a cake, and I'm very proud of that, because I wouldn't say I hate building food or such stuff in Plant Coaster. It's just very difficult because you have like a very limited amount of pieces you could work with. But I made a wedding cake and yeah, it's just way too many pieces. But the hotel is still able to go on the workshop, and it will probably go on the workshop like maybe by tomorrow. And yes, I still remember I promised that it would be on the workshop last weekend, but you guys know that you don't want to trust me when I say like, oh, by this time it will be on the workshop. No. I think I said like the planetarium was also going to be on the workshop like 3 weeks ago, and it just arrived on the workshop. So yeah, whenever I say like, oh, it's going to be on the workshop tomorrow or something, just standardly add 2 weeks to it. That's just how my brain sometimes works. Like, I think like, oh, I can finish it this weekend, and then I'm just like, I need to add this, and another 1,000 things. Just when I want to finish building up, it just, all the inspiration then suddenly comes to me. But yeah, the wedding scene is, as I said, it feels for me very whimsical, but then also in a way very romantic, because you have like this amazing view on the castle and the palace. Then, well, it's not what I usually build. And again, I blame listening to the Narnia soundtrack for that. So if you want to build something very like fantasy themed or very whimsical and I would almost say cute, listen to the Narnia soundtrack. Like, I even listened to like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, and that never, well, actually I listened to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack while building Icarus. So we also built the like entrance to the labyrinth, and so yeah, listening to music really, at least for me, impacts what I'm building. Maybe I should listen to like as Lauman said, like heavy metal. But then I'm already like half deaf. Before you ask, no, that's just like jokingly. I'm not, well, maybe like a bit. Again, still jokingly saying that. But yeah, the hotel really, it's just become like a beast on its own. Still like mirroring the corner shop, just being like huge. But by the time this video goes up, probably the hotel will actually be on the workshop. Maybe. Again, add 2 weeks to it, like in general, like anytime I say like, oh, it's going to be done by this time, just add 2 weeks, then you're mostly in the clear. Or at least then I'm in the clear. But yeah, as I said, I built a wedding cake. So now we're starting on like the, well, how do you name it? Like just the dinner, as it were, by building, well, first of all, a huge table. I keep calling things huge when they're not completely huge, but anyway. So as I said, I'm not really good at building small things. And well, furniture is small, especially when you want to build it on like Blanco scale, or not, actually Blanco scale is huge, but when you want to make something that looks usable to like the guests, then it's kind of annoying because every piece is just not really built for that. Like later on I built some chairs, and like even these wooden brackets were just too big to actually make that somewhat work. So I had to use them in a, well, just the entire seat was just built out of wooden brackets, but it still looks like very clunky. As I said, like I'm not good at building small things, I'm good at making huge things look somewhat pretty. Yeah, this is really just me coming up with an excuse on like why everything in Theonopolis is huge. Not just because I can't contain myself when I start building, but yeah, you quickly see me like trying to make it like peep scale that looks like it could actually be a table usable for the peeps. And first I thought of using the archer because everyone uses the archer, but then I realized, oh yeah, people need to be sitting here, so the archer would probably not completely work. And now to build a very clunky chair. Again, I still blame listening to Narnia for this. Like, I'm not mad at listening to Narnia because, again, it's an amazing soundtrack, but yeah, I did not expect to build a wedding scene, of all things. And I first thought like, oh, you know, maybe I need to, you know, dig up some research on like, how would an ancient Grecian wedding look like? But then I just thought like, no, I want to build something whimsical because of this music. I need to build something whimsical because of this music. Yeah. But anyway, today also is a longer video because again, I just got way too deeply into this. Like, it's comparable to the rest of the hotel, or relatively to the rest of the hotel. We are mostly building in actually a very small area. But yeah, we're finally starting on the wedding cake, which was actually easier than I thought. Because as I said, we have like a very limited amount of pieces to actually work with. And then I also want to have like, oh, you know, it needs to look like it's on a dish or on a plate. So then I thought like, alright, what piece can I use for that? Oh wait, the books have a nice, you know, edge to them. Let's use that. Then I thought that the like adventure, I would say like, I mostly use them for like freezers, but they probably have a different use normally. But those pieces, I thought that there was like 2 size variants. I was wrong. But then I quickly just thought of like, alright, I want to have something that, you know, makes it like somewhat Grecian, I would say, or Grecian inspired, but like I wanted to actually add like a miniature Greek temple on the wedding cake, and yeah, it's not like it's completely not. It's just like just it looks great and it probably tastes awful. That's like one thing that I always like thinking, like if something looks great, usually the taste doesn't really match what you expect. But hey, you guys can tell me if like a wedding cake really usually tastes awful. But anyway, this is like the most like, I would say, successful wedding cake I've ever built. But now back to the romance of this hotel. That sounds really wrong. At least in my mind. So, as I said, like, the hotel it feels very romantic just because like all the amounts of like roses used, the generally like warm colored building pieces, like the walls are like this warm colored beige color, then you have the orange parts, and then just like the marble white, and then it's all set with, of course, roses. So it really just feels very welcoming and very romantic. And so I just thought like, I need to spice up the back of this building. I need to add like some kind of like dimension, or like some kind of feeling of it being somewhat not one-dimensional. So then it quickly came to like, what is like the story most used for like love and that sort of stuff? Oh yeah, Romeo and Juliet. Yes, my brain really went into weird turns when building the hotel. But then I just thought like, alright, what is like the most important scene in that entire story all about? Well, it's not my favorite story, I would say that, just to keep it at that. Well, a balcony. Or the balcony scene, I would say, to be correctly. And a balcony would act as like adding a little bit more dimension to the building, or like at least on this side of the building. So yeah, that's really just what this balcony is referencing. I wanted to add like a ladder to this somewhat balcony, but yeah, that ladder would have been huge. Then I thought about like, maybe tying up sheets, just tying up sheets and making like some kind of like rope to basically climb your way up. But I just thought like, nah, it's like I already had another idea for like sheets, so otherwise this side would just become too busy. Like the front of the hotel is already very busy. I don't need to add a lot of things to the back because that would just distract from the front. But this ties into it being an hotel. And if you have the mindset for it, also with like the hotel being named like Eros. I said Eros is like the god of love, but in keeping with keeping this a little bit family friendly, like I usually don't think about that, but Eros is also the god of something else. But anyway, as a hotel, you would usually, you have a huge amount of laundry. You have all those bed linens or sheets, and then I just thought like, alright, this could work. It could, add some kind of liveliness to the building without it looking like very, like, pristine, I would say. Like, it adds that more realistic liveliness to it without actually being realistic. And so I basically built a laundry line, or just like a place where they could, after basically cleaning all the sheets, would hang them up to dry, and then, yeah. That's basically what this entire contraption is. Just so that all the sheets that are used in the hotel, and maybe like some other laundry, but I mostly went for sheets because, well, I didn't want more color to the building, because again, it's a very busy building with all of the roses, the orange tint to the building. So that's why I went with just white sheets, just so that it's like not too busy. But then you guys know when I try to build something that's not busy, it usually ends up being, well, way too busy. But yeah, I just really built a contraption so that they could hang up the sheets and then basically pull a lever and it would just go to the other side of the balcony, and then you could just, you keep hanging on sheets, almost like, what is it, like a conveyor belt contraption. Yeah, and I also had to make sure that like because there are two rows of sheet, like a higher row and a lower row, I needed to make sure that the higher row wouldn't, clip into the lower row. So that was fun. But that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, I hope to see you back in the next one. Probably by the time that you will see this video, I will have uploaded this hotel. So yeah, again, hope you enjoyed the video, and I wish you all an amazing day. Bye bye!